All right, everybody. I wanted to come and talk to you here real quick before we got back to trial. I thought, you know what? Let's talk about what we're seeing here. Let's talk about where we're at. I've been observing the chat, um, and interesting perspectives. I'll say that. But uh, what do I think? You know, let's talk about the witness on the stand right now. Right. First few witnesses, I didn't think were much. This witness, I think, in my opinion, of the children that have testified, I believe this is the most genuine of the children, and that's my perspective. She's the youngest in the family. I don't know that she's the most informed because it seems like she was kind of kept in the dark on some things, but she seems to be the most genuine, and she has brought some very interesting perspective. Now, obviously, we all know this. You know, the two prime suspects in this whodunit is Melody and Scott, right? And possibly Chris was involved as well. And I think she implicates all three in some of the things she said so far. One of the things that stood out to me as far as the Melody situation is she didn't help her mother from the standpoint of saying that when she arrived there on the 5th, she said the story that Melody had been floating to the police was that Amanda had said, "Where's Daddy? We can't find him." And then the search kind of went from there. And she says, "No, Mom told me that this is what happened." Now, I thought it was very interesting that she contradicts Scott and contradicts, I believe, Melody as well to the police in saying that the bones that were that they never said there was a goat found or anything like that, and that there was no phone call saying, "Hey, did you put a goat in the burn pile?" So that was interesting. And then she talks about the way Scott was acting, and he definitely was acting very, very suspicious. He was very aggressive to her, according to what she said. And I believe out of everybody, I think she's the most honest because I really believe genuinely she had nothing to do with this, and she's literally telling the most honest story about all of it. And the thing about it, Melody, is this: I believe at some level she had to know what was going on because she was on that property for 2 days. And the thing that stands out to me, I think the thing that's going to trouble the jury is, and the thing that also Amanda talks about is, she said, "Did you you didn't talk to Daddy? He didn't tell you about food. He didn't." And she says, "Listen, her dad would have always, is always, um, uh, he is always asking about food, and he's always, that's the one thing that he would have talked about." So the fact that, um, you know, she brings that up to the jury, I think, is something that is something that is incriminating to her, because I think that's going to weigh heavy on the jury to say, why would you not have been inquiring about your husband sooner? Why would you not have figured out that he was missing sooner? And of course, Amanda brings that up. Now she says she just got on the scene on the 5th. She had seen her mom on the 4th. She had no idea that there was any concern about anything about him missing, or that the dad was missing on the 4th. Now remember, the girls were looking for Big Daddy on the 4th and couldn't find him. That's another thing that sticks out to me, to say Melody had to have some idea that something had happened here. Because how is she not running around looking for him? What, she doesn't go downstairs and realize he's not there. She's not going, "Oh wow, where's Garrett?" Um, so I think that, now Susan C., the phone analysis, what you're saying here now with the phone analysis, what time of day are you talking about? Because the phone analysis does show Scott there. It shows Chris there. And remember, the last time Gary interacted with his phone was at 6:30. So what we really have is a 6:30 until and we have Chris on property after 6:30. We have Scott on property after 6:30. We have Melody, we know, was on property all the way to the next morning at 1 o'clock. And I thought it was also interesting that the daughter says, yeah, mom said she was doing yard work. Yard work? There's a fire burning in her backyard. So she had to know about it. Well, no question, Susan C. I think Scott was brought into this after something happened. That's what I think. I think that something definitely happened, though. Now the idea here that Chris did anything because he had his daughter with him makes it hard for me to believe that anything happened during that period of time. Now, like I said, I'm of the belief that something happened maybe on the morning of the 4th, not on the 3rd, like everybody else has thought would have happened, because we know there was no burn pile burning, but we know Gary was going to do a burn pile according to Chris. We know everyone was he was telling everyone he planned to burn that burn pile on the 4th. The burn pile gets started, and again, I guess we have the medical examiner who says she smelled the burning, and then we have Scott who says the burn pile was started when he got home. What I believe happened, in my opinion, is I think Scott was called home. I don't believe what Scott's telling me that he was called home for horses, or telling us that he was called home for horses. I think he was called home because it said, your dad wants to do the burn pile, get home here. And they get the burn pile started. And somewhere in that vicinity, whether it's Scott, whether it's mom, whether it's both of them, he is shot. And I believe it happens at or near the burn pile, not in the house, not anywhere else. That's why there's no real major DNA on the tractor. There's nothing lighting up luminol wise on any of those places. And then he's essentially rolled into the burn pile very quickly and incinerated. And again, that happens sometime, I would say, around, and if I'm looking at the timing of this, it looks like Scott and Melody are working as a team. If you recall, she leaves and goes to the lake. He leaves out and heads to the lake, but he returns later on, as he said, on the 4th to tend to the animals. Well, the burn pile would have had to have then been burning then at that time, but he claims he didn't see a burn pile. But we know it had to be burning, so we know he's lying about that. So it seems to me that it's Melody and Scott working in the shifts to burn the body. And then
Amanda,
he freaks out. Here we go. We're going to go back in the courthouse.
So let's move forward post July the 5th. What did you notice about the change in your family dynamics?
After that had happened, I immediately had to take care of my mom. It was probably July 6th. All of my brothers and sister looked at me and said, all right, you take her. And so I immediately had her with me. She lived with us, I can't tell you how long, months. Because she didn't want.
This was in 2018?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
After everything had happened, this was like July 6th forward. And she lived with us. She didn't want to go back to the property. Eventually it came to the point of like, okay, you can go now. And so she went back, but I had to help pay for house insurance and car insurance and power bills and things like that.